eroding my intestines with bread.
Luke, how did you find Carnivore?
I have always been a strong meat eater, especially growing up, having those meat-based meals with various starches like pasta, rice, potato. I mean, here in the UK, it's quite commonplace to have your potatoes and meat and two veg. So that's what I've always known. Um, it wasn't until probably 10, 15 years ago where I thought, you know what, I'll increase my protein and cut out the breads, that I would focus more on my health. That ended probably about a couple of months in because let's just say that there was no movement. Yeah, I didn't know anything about increasing fats or anything like that. But going back to always being meat dominant, especially when me and my wife first met, because she was a vegetarian. So we would always have meatless Mondays and or an accidental vegan meal. Uh, how can I say? I was always hungry afterwards. So I thought, it's not me. I'm always having to have minced beef or yeah. I then rediscovered going more meat dominant based again, probably about 3 years ago, and again due to sheer ignorance because I was following certain influencers online that didn't focus on increasing the fats. So again, I was having bowel issues. So I then had to dig a little deeper, and but again, it caused issues when cutting the breads out and the pastas and the potatoes, and it turned out that I was probably eroding my intestines with bread. All the gut issues have stemmed from cutting out bread for me, and but then I would get told, "Oh, you got to have your grains, up your fiber when you need to pass." It's just like there's something not right there. Some, I discovered that bread's not necessary. It's slave food because we've only been eating bread for for the past 8 to 12,000 years. Just a little quote from Bart K. But I knew that was something wrong, and I just went down this huge rabbit hole as to finding out why. I just, even with the amount of fiber that I was eating, how can I say, the quote unquote 30, at least 30 grams a day, but still, there were still issues. I was starting to develop a lot of fatigue, brain fog, sleepless nights sometimes. Yeah, it was a bit of an ordeal, but for me, it felt the right thing to do. Say I fell down the rabbit hole through, as we all do, through Paul Saladino. Then the algorithm kicked in. Ken Berry was my gateway drug into the carnivore world. That's when I learned the power of you need to increase your fats. And I was like, oh, I've been missing the trick all this long. All this time, I've been missing this trick. And since then, when I went quote unquote, keto with the crucifix vegetables, I I did feel a bit of a lift in my brain fog. I was having more of a regular bowel movement. I was thinking that this is what I've been missing all this time. I got a bit scared, if that's the right word to use, because I started then the big every time throughout my course of trying to regulate everything, especially with all the taking magnesium citrates, the optifibers, and all that throughout the years. Always, my body reacted to it in the way of, all right, I've had enough of this. We're going back to the usual problems that we've had. In other words, we're going to get used to this now. So that happened. I stagnated essentially for on every course of my journey with trying to fix my gut intestinal issues, regardless what it was. And I did actually have this with keto. I took it upon me because the doctors weren't going to help me, because all of my blood works kept coming back normal. Then I found a nutritionist, probably, when was that? That was towards the end of last year. It was a waste of money, because all I'm saying is that she said, you need to increase your fiber. Oh, what did she have me taking? An exorbitant amount of, or like a medley of tablets or what, like Candix SIBO, zinc replacements, or what, it's just all this exorbitant amount of pills that she wanted me to take and pay for. And then she goes, "Oh, prune juice, have more prune juice every morning." And I was thinking that no, you can't. You can't just live off prune juice for the rest of your life.
Did it help?
Yes, but it was a very interesting experience. I kind of had to do some form of dancing beforehand, and it was just a bit unnecessary. How can I say? It did feel like I had to prepare myself, and all I'm saying is that it hurt because of the sheer amount of food that I was eating. I was getting rid of, and I could tell that. I know I'm being quite graphic here, but you can tell that nothing was being digested. So I wasn't a big fan of this increase of fiber. I even said to her, I'm not cutting out the red meat, and she only wanted me to eat red meat for twice a week. And what was the other thing? She didn't want me to miss out on like food experiences. This is why we need to have a varied palette of foods. It's just I don't really care about breads or pastas or potato based, or all the other concoctions that these food festivals do, don't they? Because they're all carbohydrate based, aren't they? But how can we outdo the next burger and chip outlet by making our buns taste nicer? How can we make our chips taste nicer? Let's put peri peri sauce on it.
So how long ago was the trip to the nutritionist?
Oh, crikey. That must have been August last year, I think. And I think I must have been chatting with her until about February this year. But I also, at the same time, I had been liaising with my GP all about this as well, just to keep them updated and everything. And because they still couldn't do anything for me. And they had referred me to a dietitian in the NHS here in England. I don't know why, because then when I did go to see the dietitian and told her all about my experience, she goes, "You shouldn't be constipated with what you're eating." Especially when I told her all I was eating, I was probably having half a pound of meat every day, including sweet potato, avocado, uh, various cruciferous vegetables like pak choi, or not every day, but it would always be, I always have them on rotation, courgette, etc. Which, don't get me wrong, it did have a certain temporary purpose, but again, it didn't last forever. I think that's why I had to go full carnivore to reach my destination, and everything's just been, how can I say, like clockwork since.
So when did you go carnivore?
I made the choice to go full carnivore late May this year. So we're coming up to nearly 2 months.
Well, the constipation's just gone.
It's just gone. And I'm going every day, more or less, sometimes every other day. And this is all from just increasing my fats. That's the only difference that I did.
And of course, cutting out the fiber.
Yeah, the fiber was definitely not helping. And I actually have missed out the crucial element of going behind the NHS's back, because they weren't helping me whatsoever, especially when they did say that they would help me at every corner. especially when going for a gastroenterology examination. But that never happened, so I just went private for that. Due to that, it was a bit of an uncomfortable experience, let's be honest. But I thought, well, why not just do it and see what they come up with? I mean, I've been meat heavy most of my life. Yes, I've had an exorbitant amount of carbohydrates in my diet leading up to it, but no one should be having this issue just by cutting out bread. Luckily, the gastroenterologist said that there was nothing wrong. My biopsies came back normal, and he essentially diagnosed me with a sensitive intestine. And I'm just like,
Wow.
oh, there's more to this than just a sensitive intestine, because no one has a sensitive intestine. Surely
Makes
not.
it sound like you need to read to it more often or something like that, or pay more attention to it.
Yeah, but I, I did admit to him I just cut out the carbohydrate slowly, and then said I'm just like, I poo regularly now, and he goes, yeah, up your protein, and this is a gastroenterologist that not just goes private, but he also does a lot of stuff for the NHS. It just makes me laugh that they say, oh, only eat red meat twice a week, and then I've been told by a gastroenterologist to stop your protein. It's just okay. But saying that, the NHS dietitian did say, which bless her, she was trying to help me. It's not the NHS that tell you to reduce your red meat. It's the government, and I don't understand.
They can't
Yeah,
step on the feet of the dietitians, right?
when you've got nutritionists, private nutritionists saying increase your fiber, it just makes the nutritionists sound like that they're taking the message from the government, but yet they don't take the message from a mainstream public health service, which don't say that at all. Because, as I said, the NHS dietitian said, well, there's nothing wrong with your diet. And this is coming from, she actually did admit to me that dietitian at the NHS was a vegan for 20 years. Yeah, it just makes you think that if I'm being told this by a vegan dietitian at the NHS, there's something more to it.
Yeah. So, what other things have you noticed improve in the 2 months you've been doing carnivore?
My back pain, I've had back pain for 15 years, I think. It's been 15 years. Yeah, I've been working behind a desk for near enough 18 years now, and I've always suffered from back pain from that seated position. That's pretty much gone. But as you can see, I'm on a standing desk now, but don't have that issue. I've had ankle issues in the past as well. The pain is just non-existent now. So over the last week, I've had no ankle issues. When I was following that nutritionist's advice, I was starting to suffer from shortness of breath. That's completely disappeared, but that was a short-lived thing, and that was my own doing. My gums, because I've noticed a lot of the interviews that you've had recently have talked about something that I've noticed as well, is the gum issue. No more bleeding gums. The plaque on the back of my front teeth, that's pretty much disappearing. I've always suffered from plaque issues, but that seems to be clearing up.
What's a day of eating like for you?
At the moment, it is a bit sporadic. I have tried a one meal journey and a 3 meal journey, 2 meal journey, etc. So it's a little bit here and there at the moment. But my standard day could be a pound of mince. I would typically have that around 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. A pound of mince doesn't sound appetizing because it can be a bit dry, so I do put a bit of sriracha on top, but not much, only probably about 20 grams, just to make it a bit more palatable. It's the only thing that I would say is not very palatable in huge quantities. Um, But there's so many options that you can do. You can make meatballs, or I've made burger patties out of it. All I do is just grind a bit of salt in it, just flatten them down, and have a lot of butter with it because our genetic makeup is still eating mastodon meat. So we need to have a lot of fat still. Even ruminant animals don't. When you're first starting out, you still need to have that additional fat. So I've been eating a lot of Kerrygold butter with my meats. So that would be a typical day. But if I'm feeling that I need to spread my meals out through the day, I would have bacon, butter, and egg, say for morning. I do typically go for a ribeye steak, because I do. It's just trying to get that fat in, really. I would have the ribeye steak with the fat, maybe some pork. I'm trying to stick to more ruminant animals than eating chicken and pork. My wife prefers pork, so I do tend to. When I do the meat run, I like the meat run. It's one of my favourite parts of the month. Um, I Yeah, the pork belly is a good favourite because the crackling is just superb, especially when you're slathering it in the ghee. What else? There's so much variety. Yeah, there's just so much. I mean, I've done brisket, and that's very nice. I can't believe how filling that is. Had half a pound of that on what was it last Sunday before we went to my aunt's 70th birthday, just so I can fill up and not be tempted by all the carbohydrates. I was full. I could not even eat the food there.
How is your wife with this? Is she coming along for the ride, or is she just letting you do your own thing?
Well, she's happy that I'm happy, but as you've heard, that I get her pork, so she's no longer vegetarian. She hasn't been vegetarian for several years, but she's become more meat based recently. She's wanting to look, because how satiating meat really is. You don't feel that you need to eat anything extra, and she's looking to lose just a little bit more weight. She's enjoying the ride as well, but not wanting to fully commit to being carnivore. She will eat some like vegetables and fruits because obviously we've got a young man to feed. So we don't want to restrict his diet completely yet. I don't know. Maybe that's out of fear of not wanting to be stigmatized as a dogmatic family. I'm not too sure, but it's hard. I mean, because we don't want to create a habit of, if he starts sneaking food in when he's older and secret eating, I guess. I know that everyone's different. I don't want to judge anyone on what they do, and we'll just have to muddle through it until such time when our son wants to do whatever he wants.
For someone getting started with carnivore now, what would your top piece of advice be for them to kind of stick with it?
Eat more fat. Don't be afraid to eat lots of fat. That's all I'm saying. Even if you're just having a bit of bacon with it, fry up 4 to 6 rashers of bacon, wrap it around a bit of butter.
So, Luke, how can people reach out to you? Do you have a YouTube or Instagram or anything?
I do have a YouTube channel. I've only got 2 videos, but I am more present on Instagram. I go by at JivicG. I haven't posted on there recently due to family commitments, but I will. I am going to be posting on there more often. It's not diet related. It's more fitness orientated. Because I'm a big proponent for movement, so there's a lot of my um workouts on there, or kettlebell complexes. So feel free to check it out. Reach out to me. I'm happy to help anyone who I'm no nutritionist, but from my experience, I can help out in any way, shape, or form.
Awesome. Well, I'll link to those below. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I really appreciate your time, Luke.
No, no problem. It's great to be here.